Yo, what's up, guys? I'm here hitting you up with a new video. I know Facecam, something new, but it's not only the Facecam today. I brought a special guest with me for this Embla talk, and it's none other than Kovian. What's up, bro?
Hey, hey guys, how are you? Nice for having me, Tiger.
Yeah, of
Very
course.
enjoying it here. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we just talked the last 30 minutes about random shit and so on.
Yeah, I know. Got a whole backstory, a bit about Embla, of course. But then, yeah, nice for you to have me on your channel.
Of course, man. Also, for your information, Kovian, and for the people who are watching this video, in case you do not know Kovian, I will put his channel link in the comment section down below, or in the description. In the description, I put his channel link. Go subscribe him if you didn't do it already. So basically, what we are doing today, or what we are discussing, is Embla. Daddy F2P already made a video today about Embla, so we go more in depth, or we just discuss how we can potentially make use of Embla when she comes out. So
Mm-hmm.
what we figured out a couple of things here is just to what Embla actually does is when you her all what's basically going on for her is her seed debuff. And because it's a silver debuff, you don't need any accuracy, and doesn't matter if you glance or not, you always apply the debuff with her S1. Okay, the enemy died. Perfect.
Yes, and I also think that's the amazing part. The fact that even if you miss, you actually apply it. So that's great. Is that true for all silver debuffs?
Yeah, it's for silver debuffs general. Silver debuffs are debuffs which always apply no matter what. The only way you can counter a silver debuff is if you're a hide or you have immunity set, and that's it. But I just saw that the level is too low. So what we do is
Yeah, just raise it a bit.
we put a tie in there just to get the 25% speed lead. And we increase the stats to, like, I think 47 should be good enough. Also for you
Yes.
guys is that those are the stats for the Embla. In my opinion, kind of decent stats, except the speed. The speed sucks, but doesn't matter for this
You
purpose.
can't use that anyway. Yeah. I
Anyways,
think yeah, but let's get into the video. Yeah,
yeah,
so her debuff. Another thing that I mentioned just before we started recording is that she can lend the debuff two ways, with her third skill or with her first skill. Now, with her third skill, the problem we encounter is that if she kills with that third skill, she won't actually transfer anything. While as in her text, it reads that the debuff is supposed to transfer. So that's a problem because it forces you to always use the first skill first.
yeah,
What do you think about that limitation?
yeah. That's a problem which I told you earlier. It's if you don't have her at R2, you play basically Embla with one arm on the back. And the same goes for her R2 if there's no debuff on it. And let's use the R2. Boom, boom. No
Yeah,
debuffs.
nothing.
Nothing. So in reality, um, I mean, there are like a couple of things. Okay, I mean, the thing here is actually we have to make one adjustment. So
Okay.
we can land the CT buff with skill 1, right? But we can actually land it with skill 3 as well. So all
If you
we have,
don't kill, that's true.
if we don't kill, because we have like low levels, let's put in Alice. I put in, what else do we have? Nusi, I
Put
used
in
early, and the
put an
Sally.
ollie in case
Sally.
someone dies, I guess.
I don't think I put in Sally. Sally's good enough.
Okay, yeah.
And then we can I? Oh wait. Oh, come on. I'm so bad at this. I'm new to emulator, so cut me some slack, guys. So increase the level to, like, let's say 7. I think 75 is good. Let's do 75. Oh, and one other thing, we do max level here. And yeah, so Tai is not level 1 but level 60. Then we use just the
Yes.
this one here, and yeah, just the S1 with Nasi. It doesn't really matter too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can. No, I don't want to put an attack buff on her
You
right
might
now.
kill. That's true.
Yeah, because we might kill. And to still
Mhm.
be safe, because I think the Inferno won't die, but we will target the flow type, so we are at a
The one we might
disadvantage.
miss. Yeah.
But here we have the debuff now.
Yes.
Then we can Nusi, whatever. And then we have 5 stacks because we
That
still
is
hit 4
crazy. It
times.
actually stacks up a lot, especially if you have multi hitters.
Yeah,
She's gonna pair well with
yeah,
those.
exactly, exactly. So we have two things which we could basically do here. We can either um, use S2 to manually remove that, which we do, and also which is
Actually, S2 doesn't remove. Did you know? It just detonates, but
yeah, yeah,
it
that
doesn't
yeah, yeah, yeah,
actually, yeah, it
detonates.
doesn't actually remove. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it puts it again, I think.
yes, yes, and only the second hit, by the way, not the first hit, the second hit only.
The second hit, exactly.
So
Yeah.
we get another stack, 7 stacks, and then she detonates it. Boom, boom,
Hmm.
and it didn't crit.
Oof.
That's the next thing. Her seeds can actually crit, and
Yes.
basically what we discovered with her, she does good damage. As you can see here, she did like what 30k something 30k,
Hmm.
and if
Yeah, that's
you
the thing. It's she's not completely dependent on the debuff to do her damage. Unlike someone like Jumpman, she actually has solid multipliers. I think her first skill is 120. That's standard. That's okay. Her second skill is actually 110, but then she attacks twice. So it's 110 per turn, not 110 capped.
yeah. Also if
So it
you
becomes a 220.
also if you guys saw it right now, I targeted this flow guy with the Sally. She did her 3 attacks, popped the seed, and the seed crit got a crit, and it did 19k damage.
Still, exactly. That's massive damage. That's a lot.
Yeah,
Because I think it's 35 per stack. So if you have seven of them, you can imagine.
yeah. And
It pops
all
at eight, right?
at 8. So right now, if I use Nassi's for first skill, it pops on this wind type unit, right? Boom, 24k. The one
Oof.
thing I
And right there, it's
uh,
just dead.
and the one thing I do not understand, Kovian, maybe you have an idea, or maybe Lilith can tell us more about it, because that's one thing like I cannot fathom. I just simply don't understand is why does her max stack seed damage vary? I mean,
Yeah,
you
that's the
saw
thing.
when it popped on this guy on the left, it did 19k damage, and on the wind unit it did 24k damage. Why? It doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, that's weird. Maybe it's a VR battle thing. Like I think I would have to confirm by doing it in a different location. So like if in other game modes it does the same, that it might be we might have found like a hidden elemental thing. Maybe there's like a damage reduction for element. All I knew was that there was a chance to miss. I'm not sure if there's a damage reduction happening unless it's stated. It has to be stated that
That's
you deal less damage as
yeah.
this element.
I mean, the
But
only
yeah.
thing I can think about right now is this one thing which I can think about which can actually affect her damage output with the stacks is so I'm assuming when I pop the seed right now with the Sally and it crits, I believe it will be 20k ish, not more than 20k.
20 to 24.
No, no,
Yeah.
actually not 24. It will be like 19, 20k, like the left unit, and there's a specific reason for that. Okay, it didn't crit, but my in my
Uh,
in my mind is maybe because it says the seed scales with her attack, right? That's what it
mm-hmm.
says, and so, but the seed damage only turns into effect when it gets popped, right?
Okay.
So
So you think the
maybe
attack buff
maybe the
plays a role?
yes, and the attack buff, it doesn't matter if you have the attack buff at the very beginning, but the only thing that might matter is once it detonates, it
There's an attack
calculates,
buff.
yeah, it calculates how much attack um, has Embla at that very moment, and depending if she has an attack buff when it detonates or not, that scales with the damage. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think I am inclined to believe you because one, um, it's a dot effect that crits. This is the first dot effect that crit. Guys, bleeds and Anesidora and anyone else, those do not crit because they take into effect when you place a dot. It's the attack when he was placing it. So if this one crits, it means it is she's still sort of connected to the debuff. So I think I agree with you by saying it's the attack when the thing procs because it's her attack
Yeah,
at the current time when the detonation happens because it also has a chance to crit. So it means when you detonate the debuff,
yeah,
she actually does an attack in a way. I think that's what happens.
and there's
So I'm inclined to believe you there.
and also
Yeah.
there's one other thing which complicates things a lot more, which is it actually the seed. If you apply it, it at the moment you apply the seed, it already calculates the attack of Embla. So that means that every stack has a different damage value based on if she has an attack buff or not, or if she has an attack break. So you could potentially,
Ooh.
so it could potentially be, do you have eight? So for the auto detonation at least,
Mm-hmm.
when you reach the max stacks, right? Do you have eight stacks on the target while she has an attack buff? Or do you have zero, or do you have eight stacks without any attack buff? Or do you have like four stacks with an attack buff and four stacks without an attack buff?
Without oh, so if I'm getting you correctly, you're saying every stack, every instance might have a different attack value.
Maybe it's possible. I otherwise I can't explain the
A
different.
different damage, yeah.
Uh, because I mean, in the coding, Dislyte is very simple because most of the time, if you deal damage right, it's always the same damage no matter what. For example, if you use a
Yeah.
Gaius, do his S3 S2, it's always the same damage. If you go, for example, VR, it's every time the same. But hers vary. So the question is it when it detonates, it takes then the actual attack of Embla into account, or is it when it applies? And
That's
that's
crazy.
uh,
Actually, I should ask the devs that. That's a good catch, by the way.
that's something because I noticed she does different damage and I couldn't explain to myself how that actually works. So that's the one thing. And also, I did a testing with her on a Zeus set. If her seed can actually proc Zeus, they cannot
Mm-hmm.
for you
It
guys.
cannot proc
It,
Zeus.
it cannot proc it cannot proc Zeus. So Zeus is out of the window. My personal opinion, maybe Kovin, you have a different opinion. There are two sets you can run her. It's either War Machine for maximum damage potential for her seeds, or you run her on Astral to get more seeds across the board when you do battles. And the offset, in my opinion, should always be Fury. If you make her a DPS unit, because you need, at least for PvP, you need a lot of speed, you need crit damage, you need attack, and also for her, because her seeds can crit, you need the crit rate. And to kind of compensate for it, you need the Fury set on her. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think I am inclined to agree, especially on the Astral. I mean, War Machine, it's just the default go-to, probably your best damage
Yeah.
skill. But I think we can't, especially for PvP, as you mentioned, we can't
Yeah.
completely rule out Windwalker. So if you are only looking for damage, if your Windwalker is fast enough, like plus 100 speed and is able to give you enough DPS,
Mm-hmm.
I would say go for that. And then Incandescence, of course, will help compensate for the crit because she gains zero crit from her Ascension, which
Yeah.
is insane. You're gonna need a lot of crit for her.
Actually,
And yeah.
and now we come to the PvP part. I have one setup for you guys for PvP. That I have like two different ways, in my opinion, two different ways how you can play with Embla. So the first thing here is a cleave team if you go against tank teams. So what you need for this specific lineup here is you have a Gaius, you have a Unas. You can also use Dahlia or Clara, but Unas is just the best thing here. You have an Ashley, but you need an R2 Zora, which is important. But if you have an JJ, for example, you could also replace the Zora for a JJ. But let's just assume you have an R2 Zora. So the idea behind this cleave team is very simple. But to make this work, you need an R2 Embla. Very important. You need an R2 Embla. Also, it's not speed tuned right now, as you can see, or anything. But the thing here is you do Unos does this thing, right? Then the second unit which goes after Unos is Ashley to get the attack buff for everyone. Then the next unit is Zora to land the AoE defense break on everyone who can get death broken. Then you get Gaius, who does this big damage, right? And then depending on what happened, like or what is left, right? So Embla is the last to do her attack. With Embla, you basically target one unit because she can nuke down anything at this point because she does actually very good damage. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you just look, okay, if it's not a hide or if it's not an immunity, something where you can just simply land her CT buff, right? And then the last is Embla. You see, okay, in this situation right here, we have, for example, this guy is very low. We use her as free. Boom, auto detonate because it's dead, right? And then her R2 goes into effect, and then the other receives the damage. And that's how you clean up the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, that team really sounds powerful, especially if, I mean, I think you can mix it up with Tevo because there's talks of her R2 being very, very similar to Tevo. I mean, let's kind of zoom in on her R2. What's different about her in her R2 and her base?
Oh, guys, for your information, for some reason I cannot get the English version for the game. I cannot get it to English, but it's just German. But it just says you attack one enemy 2 times. The damage is 110% of her attack, steals one buff, and the second hit detonates the seed. And when it does that, it infects other targets with the seeds, and it's 2 targets which get the seed debuff.
So with R2, what happens is that the damage is not only to the one that died, is actually everyone receives equal damage, if I'm not wrong, right?
Not with a R2 because it's just the one guy you attack because it detonates and it's a manual detonation. It's not an auto detonation.
It's not an auto. Oh, okay. Yeah. There's a lot of manual auto detonations there. It's also not clear, but I guess we'll get used to it as we go, as everyone goes.
Because when we look at her, let's look at her Embla again, right? So I go
Mm-hmm.
to Embla and we look at her resonance. Her R2 resonance says the automatic explosion or detonation uh, damages not only the carrier but the rest of the team. Damage, which doesn't say it here, but it is damage 150% attack of Embla. That's the
Yes.
thing. So, and I have a second lineup, which is also very powerful. Very, very powerful, by the way.
This
Um,
is also for PvP,
it's
right?
also for PvP, right? So I just showed you the Cleave team version, and now I show you something else, which is, let's put in, um, I need the units first. It's a control team, which we faced in RTA.
Oh,
So you have, for example, you have a Long Mian. Then you got a Nusi, because there are play with Nusis. I just pick her because I have her here right now. Then what do we else? Pritzker, very important, Pritzker. And last spot, I already have an idea. Um, Last spot is Lucas. So here, that's the team basically, or maybe a tie instead of a
hmm,
Longmian. But the general idea is you have just a control team with an Embla.
yeah. So you base. Oh, I get the idea behind this. You basically do what you do with Jumpman in PvE because you know you can have Jumpman as your solo DPS,
Mhm.
have multi-hitter controllers, and then her damage carries the whole team, right?
Yeah. So basically, what Embla allows you to do in a control team is to add the damage. Because a control team is, what does a control team do? It treats your RTA team like they're doing Infinity Tower. That's what they're doing in PvP. But
Basically, yeah.
yeah, and they just try to 24/7 control you. But then we do this, for example. What we can do here with Embla is she adds the damage to it. So we have here, because I didn't pay attention to the screen right now, but what happened was is Tricky Pritzker used this as free, popped the seed of Embla, the unit died, and because it's auto detonated, right? Reached max
Mm-hmm.
stacks. The other two in the back row got seeds. So what you can do in this situation here is you can target, for example, someone with a seed debuff, okay? And you use the S1. You don't use the S2 because you don't want to pop it yet, because 2 stacks is too weak. It's
It's
70%,
too
right?
weak, yeah.
So you use the S1, boom, and you get a pursuit attack and increase the stacks. Or you could have also attacked one with no stacks and got stacks there. And then you have Nusi, increases stacks. Then you have, for example, Lucas, right? Stun again, increase stacks. And you just simply control. That's what you do here. And then you target someone who has 0 stacks. And then you just continue the stuff you do, right? And then we have here in the back
Mm-hmm.
row 2 guys with 7 stack and 6 stacks. So basically, when we use Lucas, who has a multi-hit, and multi-hitter controllers, by the way, is the important part here, you pop these max stacks. Boom. What happens here?
Oof.
They got crazy
16K,
damage,
17K.
right?
Holy.
And also, what you have to think about or have to take into consideration, Kovian, is you saw that damage, right? But if
Yes.
Embla would have been R2, because you did the auto detonation, not the manual detonation, her reso effect would have gotten into effect, and 150% attack damage would have been across the board again on every other unit, because we popped
That
two
is
guys at the
insane.
same
So
time.
wait. So you popped two full stacks Aspers that had two full stacks, right? They
Yes,
auto detonated.
yes,
So the damage from the R2, would it be from one of the Aspers or both of them? So it'll
both.
be 300 or 150?
It would have been, so it would have been 150 each, but you could say 300 basically.
300 in a
But
way.
you
That
popped,
is
but
insane.
because you popped 150 times,
Mm,
and it's not limited, and the R2 effect is not limited to once per turn or something, but it says when a target reaches max stats, it auto detonates, and then boom, effect goes into play. And because we detonated 2 units at the same time, double damage.
double damage. That is insane. Wow. I mean, she sounds strong. Any closing words on her from your side? Like, what do you think? Actually, no, we didn't talk about APEP yet. You had some words about APEP before we
Yeah,
started. What's
yeah,
sort of your thought on that?
yeah, basically. So my general opinion is like, let's go into APEP first, okay? Let's go into APEP. Let's do 12 because 13 didn't work. There was the cut because I used this super stupid team. Um, the thing here is with APEP, if if Ambler is just an APEP unit, I would say completely skip her, because who cares about APEP? Seriously, like, it's for what? I mean, we don't
Hmm?
need another APEP
True.
unit. Everybody, I mean, I tested her. I can tell just by looking at what happens at APEP. She's useful for APEP, and she increases the time to clear APEP, especially since they nerfed APEP down. I cannot tell by how much because I don't have the relics and the team for it right now. I have to test it on the global server and not the PTR server. But I can tell you something about APEP. You can just, if you're a chrono slave like me, I can tell you a quick relic farming guide 101 with how to farm your relics. And that's very simple. You go to the bounties, you pick up 3 times the epic bounty stem plus memchip pack, grab your plaza stem and stamina, grab your infinity tower stamina, and then you put all these memo chips into Fafnir. Just spam all till it's done. Fafnir is done. then you can continue with Chronos, and you just simply don't care about APEP, because how do you get your APEP relics? You get your APEP relics from Expedition. You get your APEP relics from what's it called again? Sentinel.
You can craft them. You can also craft
You
them as
could
well. That's
craft
what
them.
I do for the Avatara set, because you can go specifically. I want Avatara. Don't give me Panacea or anything.
For
I
ex-
want Avatara. I actually want the diamond, which is now the shoes. Not the diamond, but like like
yeah,
the spade. Yeah. I
you
want a speed spade, and then you go in, you craft 10, you see what you get.
yeah. You could do that, or I feel like using essences for APEP relics is kind of waste, or you get your relics from Cube. And what I do sometimes is I just wait for relic events where you can craft your perfect relic, right? And then I get my Fury or Avatar relic, or yeah, that's basically it. Fury and Avatar. That's actually the only thing that really matters. And then you get there your perfect relic, and that's it. APEP done. And then you can just continue with Chronos. And that's how you farm your relics with the new system.
Your relics and APEP. Yeah, so you don't need to farm APEP. So what you're saying is that if she was just an APEP thing, um you wouldn't consider her poor, right? And maybe the devs agree because they specifically gave her crit rate up in point war. It's not crit rate up globally. It's
Against,
crit rate in point war. So specifically they know her value lies in her point war viability, in her debuff being like when you remove it being like a tricky effect, even though it's not an auto detonation. If you put enough of it, if it's just a tank team, it will eventually die off. So yeah, I think I agree with you in that case. You shouldn't view this one as a PvE. While you can use her in PvE, unlike someone like Kenji, she is also viable in PvP. So I would say it's a slight pull. I mean, like you would have to pull, but then remember, R2 is when she shines in PvP. And I think R2 is where everyone shines in PvP, but that's a discussion for another video.
yeah, especially when you look at it, since they changed the reso system, right? Every new Esper that got released was basically you need to R2 that relic to actually unlock the potential of the unit. And before that, they didn't have that system, so the units were already good at RR0, or they were just simply bad.
Yeah. Yeah, they simply were because there wasn't R1 or R2. Well, there was, but it meant nothing.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's it. So, guys, what I can tell you about it right now, I wouldn't go ham on her. Just go R2 immediately. I just wanted to show the potential. Is she good? Is she bad? We still cannot tell because we couldn't test her at R2 yet. But to be able to say, okay, do we go ham and get our Embla at R2, is we need her at R2, and we have to see her damage potential with her R2 when she uses her S3 or the auto detonation in general. And then we can say, okay, she's definitely worth it or she's not worth it. But if you go for R0, I feel like you play with one hand on the back, it's not worth it. What do you think?
I completely agree. It's another Yunchuan situation. While you could get away with an Intesa R0, that's just for Chronos. If you wanted to use it for anything else, you needed R2, you need R2 Intesa, you needed R2 Yunchuan, and you need R2 Embla.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my final.
That's also what I think about, is we have to basically um, test her again at R2, and then after seeing her actual damage, then we can say, okay, she get her at R2 or just skip her. But thanks, guys. That's the end of the video. It's already almost 30 minutes long. Um, Kovian, thank you for tuning in, for being my feature bro in this video.
For sure, man. Hopefully, I can come for other, collab videos. Hopefully, I can have you on my channel
Of course.
with the next ESPA or anything like that.
Of course, are we doing a stream or something like that? Nonetheless, thanks, guys, for watching. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.